Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to my channel if you're new here, and in today's video we have a Milky White Showdown. This is Funny Bunny, which is the one I'm wearing, which is like the classic cult favorite from OPI, and I have a bunch of things that are like it, or are they? I don't know. We're gonna just put them side by side and see which one is my favorite among these 7 Milky Whites, right? We have names that you guys are probably familiar with, a couple Essies. We have China Glaze, Color Club, the latest release from Dimension Nails. So let's just get into them. We're gonna swatch them and compare, and I'm gonna be picking my favorites as we go. So let's go. All right, first up we have Funny Bunny, and this is one of OPI's most popular colors. I think it's on the same tier as the Bubble Baths and the Lincoln Park After Dark and those types of polishes that are like cult favorites that people just cannot get enough of. But it does have, reputation for having not the best formula. Now, that is a common theme among Milky Whites. So as you can see on this one, I'm doing thin coats. For all of these, I'm doing thin 1 and 2 coats. And then the third coat, I'm doing it a little bit less thin, maybe slash a normal coat slash a flooded coat, depending on whatever each polish needed to be perfect. But this one, on the first round, I'm going to leave it by itself just because it is, the cult favorite, the most popular one. I just left it by itself. I didn't have any polish to compare it to. So anyways, you guys can see here how it builds up in 3 coats. And I'm wearing it here on my left hand. And I have to say, even at 3 coats with nails that are very ridgy, it's still not perfect. But I did do 2 thin coats. So maybe if I had done, 2 regular coats and a floated maybe it would have been okay, but yeah, anyways. Up next in the Milky White Showdown, we have Dimension Nails, Vanilla Almond Milk, and China Glazes Off-White on White. This was from one of their summer collections, the one that was like all whites. This is one of them. It was the Milky White in the collection. And let's swatch them together and then we'll talk about it, and I'll pick a favorite among these 2. So this polish released very recently, meaning like within the next, I don't know, probably 1 to 2 weeks by the time this goes live. This goes live, and this one is a very milky jelly white, and it doesn't really build up to opacity, as you guys can see in the 1, 2, and 3 coats image, and in the live swatch, it is an actual jelly. So even if you do 3 coats, you're not gonna get opacity, and it is very nice. Like the formula is not streaky at all. And it's just very good overall. Even if you want to wear it at 1, 2, or 3 coats, there's no streaks. Now, because it's more jelly than the rest here, I feel like this one, it's kind of like in a different category, because everything else here is kind of like acrylic, where you can see some sheerness in the first coat, but it does build up to opacity. So maybe this one is too jelly to be here, but I wanted to include it because it's a recent release, and I figure you guys were gonna ask me, so I just added it. All right, up next we have Off-White on White by China Glaze, and you can see here in the image and as it builds up in the live swatch that I did a very thin coat, the first and second, and my nails are very ridgy, so you could definitely see some streaks, but I actually have to say that this one gets a little bit more coverage, I think, than Funny Bunny, and obviously gets more coverage than the vanilla from Dimension Nails. But I remember when this first released, I got it fully opaque and even for me at 2 coats, but my nails didn't have as many ridges. So, I feel like my nails right now are in a place where the ridges are definitely there. I mean, it's been, probably like 3 years since I first swatched this, and you can definitely see ridges now a little bit more, which I guess is a good test to see their coverage. But yeah, anyway, so for this one, I did 2 thin coats and a third, a little bit more of a floated coat. So in this tier, I'm gonna go ahead and give it to China Glaze. And let me tell you why. This Vanilla Almond Milk, I feel like it is too much of a jelly, so that it's not in the same category as the rest. So I don't feel like it's even fair for it to move on, because it's kind of like a separate thing altogether. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this fight here to the China Glaze one. All right, up next we have Whispering White by Color Club against Essie's Waltz. And I have to say, Essie Waltz is a cult favorite on the Essie side of things. So for a very long time, I feel like it's been like kind of like the Funny Bunny of Essie. And this one's a recent release by Color Club. I think this polish released earlier this year, so it's very new. So this is kind of new on the scene. So let's swatch them and we'll talk about it, about them as we go. All right, so this polish, if I were to do a regular first coat and a floated second coat, I have gotten opacity with it that way. But for this showdown, I wanted to treat them all the same. So I ended up doing a thin first coat, a thin second coat, and just the third a little bit more floated, which is what I did for everything else. And this one just self-levels, I cannot speak today, I'm sorry, self-levels beautifully. Even if you do see the streaks on my nails, I have to say that this formula is really, really fantastic. It's almost as if it were like acrylic. The lean's very jelly, so the formula is very squishy and easy to work with, but still builds opacity. It's a very, very good contender, and I have to say it's a bit underrated. All right, up next we have Waltz, and this one is a very popular color, I would say. I don't know if it's just, as popular today as it used to be, because I feel like 10 years ago, this color was like all the rage in Miami. People used to mix this one with marshmallows. I think they would do like a coat of marshmallow and a coat of Waltz, kind of like layer them together, and it was like so popular. It has a very glassy finish, very beautiful look, and it builds up, nicely. It doesn't feel as opaque in the first coat. It does feel more jelly in the first coat than Funny Bunny, but it builds up nicely, has a very beautiful color. It's just a white like mostly everything else here, and I think it's a popular one by Essie for a reason. I mean, it looks so fresh and so clean. It's really, really nice. All right, so in this not round, but like in this little competition step here, I actually have to give it to Whisper in White. Let me tell you why. I know Essie Waltz is a cult favorite, and I know people are probably gonna come at me for this, but when I'm reaching for a Milky White between these two, I lately tend to go for this one. I just think this Whisper White is such a good color, has such a good formula, and I think it's a little bit of a better formula than the Essie, just slightly so, I wish I didn't have to put them next to each other, but eventually I'm gonna have to put everything next to everything here. So, I'm gonna have to choose. So keep in mind that Essie Waltz is a very gorgeous polish. And, I don't know. I'm inclined to choose Whisper in White over Waltz. And I hope I don't regret this. But anyways, that's what I'm leaning towards right now. Up next, we have Essie Marshmallow versus Essie Tuck It In My Tux. And I feel like Tuck It In My Tux is not that popular. I wonder if it was like a limited edition. Like, I barely ever hear anybody talk about it. And it's a fantastic Milky White. Now, Marshmallow is very, very popular as well as the Waltz. Now, I do have to say that if you compare these two, even though they're whites, if you compare them to Waltz, maybe it doesn't really show on camera, but let's say that you could try to compare it to something white, like compared to the cap, for example, or like one of these lint-free wipes, they do feel as if they had like a tad of enough white, but then on the nail, it doesn't really translate. On the nail, they feel white. So anyways, I don't know, maybe even on the nail, if you put them right next to a pure white, we would see more of an off-white, but anyways, let's swatch them. All right, for Marshmallow, again, I did a thin first coat, and you can see a lot of my ridges, and the second coat actually felt very opaque. I didn't remember Marshmallow building up so much, but I guess I've always known that it builds up faster than Waltz, so maybe that's why people used to use coats of Marshmallow and then Waltz on top to like soften it a little bit, because it does feel a little bit more opaque. But yeah, the formula is similar to the rest. It builds up similar, I do have white brushes on all of these Essies, even if they originally had thin brushes, which, if you try to swatch these on a thin brush, you are going to struggle more. Okay, so the white brushes definitely helps them, because if I were to compare this with a thin brush to anything else here with a white brush, of course, the one with the thin brush is going to lose. All right, so for Tuck It In My Tux, I do have it with the original Essie white brush, because I did buy, I don't remember where I got this one. I don't know if I got it at a store or if I got it off of a D-stash from somebody, but this one has a very easy formula to work with. It builds up super nicely and super opaque at the second coat. So if you're looking for a more squishy look, this one kind of builds up a little bit fast. And I think if you do 2 regular coats instead of thin to build that up, you might get opacity in 2. But if you do thin coats, you will need 3 for sure. But yeah, it does have that Essie white brush by default, right? Default what? Like when I tell you that I cannot speak today, I'm not even joking. By default, it does have the Essie white brush, which makes it super awesome. All right, on this one, I am actually going to give it to Tuck It In My Tux, and I know I'm killing some of the cult favorites. I mean, they're cult favorites for a reason, and part of that reason is nostalgia, you know, that people just kind of get used to them. And the fact that you can find marshmallow all the time and Tuck It In My Tux, you probably cannot find it as easily. So keep in mind that if you cannot find Tuck It In My Tux, it's not a problem, right? I mean, marshmallow is a known polish that looks gorgeous. But just, I mean, if I'm being honest, if I have to compare them, like, you know, side by side, honestly, I think the Tuck It In My Tux is just a better formula, you know? That's just, I don't know. Now, also keep in mind that my bottle of marshmallow is old. If you notice, it doesn't even have the Essie in white like this one does. The top of the cap is different, you know, like, you know. So I don't know if I were to grab a new bottle of marshmallow, maybe I would choose it. I don't know. But what I have in hand right now, I have to give it to Tuck It In My Tux. All right, now we're starting to like get to the point where things are starting to get very, very hard, okay? We have the Whisper in White versus the Tuck It In My Tux. And for these two, I'm actually gonna give it to the Color Club, and let me tell you why. I'm sorry, I'm an Essie lover, and I'm sorry if you are too, but it is what it is. This is just easier to find. It is available right now, whereas Tuck It In My Tux might be hard to get. Now, I don't know, I just feel like Whisper in White is a new release that hasn't had a chance to really like be up against these like giants, you know, from the other brands. But when you actually, you know, just look at how it behaves, what I'm reaching for lately, take into consideration that it's a lower price, that it also has a great brush, just like this one. This has the new Essie brush, so it's good. I don't know, I just have to give it to Color Club on this one. I'm sorry. Bye. All right, you guys, the final showdown, the final step, the final round. The winner of this showdown, in my opinion, is Whisper in White. I'm sorry, OPI Funny Bunny, and I know I just lost like half of my followers. I'm getting canceled. How dare she give it to something that's not Funny Bunny? Funny Bunny is the cult favorite. Funny Bunny is the OG, and I understand. You know, there's a certain nostalgia attached to Funny Bunny. I love it, and I probably lost my sister because she's a Funny Bunny forever kind of girl. I'm sorry, now I don't have a sister anymore. But the reality is that when I'm reaching for a Milky White, Whisper in White is the one I'm going for, and it's recent. It's a recent development because this released in 2023, but it's just also a better brush. Like when you compare the brush of OPI to the brush of Color Club, especially for Milky Whites that are harder to apply, the Color Club brush is just better. It really is. You know, it has the wider, rounded paddle brush that makes applications so easy. And Whisper in White just self-levels a little bit better, and the color is the exact same. So do I think this is gonna replace, you know, Funny Bunny for people? Absolutely not. I mean, nothing is gonna replace Funny Bunny. Funny Bunny already has a crown, you know, in the world of nail polish, and it is what it is. But ever since I got this color, I haven't reached for OPI Funny Bunny. So it is what it is. I'm gonna give it to Whisper in White. And the price is also cheaper, which I know for a lot of you it matters. I know it matters for me. All right, one thing to keep in mind is that with the exception of the dimensional nails, which is just a jelly, this one's not the same formulation as the rest. You know, these 6 polishes are all very, very similar, and I had to dig like very deep and very like get very picky when I was going to choose them over the others, you know. So at the end of the day, I think they're close enough that I would say get whatever you can get on sale, get whatever you can get that's cheaper, you know, where you are. I know all of these brands are not available in every country. They are all very solid Milky Whites. And even if they are a little bit streaky and you have to kind of float them and build them up, we know we love them. We love a good crisp, you know, squishy white, and anything that you choose here that you can get your hands on, it's gonna be good for you. It's gonna be fine, okay? So I just did this for fun. I hope I didn't lose any of my SC and OPI girls. I'm sorry, I love you, but I suggest that you give this color a try, okay? And then we'll talk. Thank you guys so much for coming to my Milky White Showdown, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye.